Hi, I'm Arkush alongside Edholm. We're here to talk to you about what may be the most confusing part of the current deadlock between the owners and players of all, decertification. What does it mean? Everybody understands a lockout. The owners are going to say to the players, we're not letting you come to work. They can do that with a collective bargaining agreement because the player contracts that were negotiated under that agreement are no longer valid or can be put on hold if in fact it goes away and there's no new agreement. However, if the NFL Players Association decertifies and the union ceases to exist, there is no collective bargaining group that represents the players, then the individual player contracts remain valid, and then the owners have a problem because they've got to pay roster bonuses in April, and they've got to start paying players the second week in April, whether there's games or not, Eric.
Yeah, and obviously that can lead to antitrust lawsuits, really bog things down in court. It's a risky move for the players. And when I talked to the union as long ago as a year ago, they said, this is a last-ditch thing. It's probably not going to happen. Well, we're right up against it, and it's a possibility. So we could be facing a lot of lawsuits here.
Well, and this is where we run into me being the oldest guy in the room because we've been through this before. I was actually publishing Pro Football Weekly in 1982 with the 56-day work stoppage. In 1987, they played replacement games, and the union caved. And shortly after, about a year and a half, in '89, they did decertify the union. A number of players went into court, filed antitrust claims. They started winning them, every one of them. The owners couldn't beat them in antitrust court, and that's when they came up with the collective bargaining agreement of 1992 that eventually in '93 caused real free agency, and it had been some version of that agreement that had been in force until this deadline, and even with an extension of the deadline, at some point if this agreement goes away, it was the decertification that caused the roughly 18 years of labor peace. If they don't have that now, they're going to go right back to court. We don't know what the owners will do. Their options are limited.
Yeah, and obviously just based on past ruling history, Judge Doody, who has jurisdiction over these NFL cases, has typically ruled in favor of the players. And I think that's a threat that scares the owners, that if it goes back to Doody in these cases or in his hands, they could rule favorably, and their whole goal has been kind of swinging the pendulum back to their favor.
Well, and here's the interesting point to keep an eye on, because I've talked to a number of reputable labor attorneys in the last few weeks to try and be on top of this story. Judge Doody has ruled in favor of the players more than the owners because the players have been right more than the owners. You talk to any of these qualified labor lawyers and they'll say no, he doesn't lean pro-labor. As a matter of fact, he's a Ronald Reagan appointee originally. The bottom line is that the owners are trying to control their game in an antitrust environment. They've been to the Supreme Court this year and asked for the exemption, been turned down 9-0. This court hasn't voted 9-0 on anything. That's why Judge Doody tends to end up ruling in favor of the players more than the owners. Decertification is a tactic. It's a procedural move. The players will almost certainly do it if there is no agreement, and the owners don't want to see it happen. For ProFootballWeekly.com, he's Eric Edholm. I'm Arkush. Follow us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week right here and on our Twitter account as well.